Hello, ladies, Gungans, and those beyond the binary. My name's Charlie Savage,
And my name's Ethan Odenthal.
and welcome to episode 12 of Outer Rim Radio, the podcast made by Star Wars nerds for Star Wars nerds. And today we're going to be discussing episode 4 of the Bad Batch, titled Cornered. And before we get into that, let's talk about some of the recent Star Wars news. I had a great flub there.
Hey man, this is what happens when you go
I was doing so well.
do everything.
One day,
failures and all. Hey man, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
It's all right. We have some pretty juicy news to discuss today, actually. Well, I guess as juicy as you want to interpret it. The first thing, I think people interpret it as way cooler and way more exciting than it was. The Mandalorian executive producer, Dave Filoni, has now officially, air quotes, I'm using there for use in audio, been titled the executive creative director for Lucasfilm. But surprising no one, absolutely no one if you've been paying attention, Dave has been acting in this role for over a year.
Literally.
And it just never got officially announced.
Dave's totally the guy that would never bring it up if he was promoted.
Yeah, dude, he's like, I just want to make Star Wars shit. Rest is.
I mean, pretty much.
Just happened.
He's just having fun writing about war crimes and wolves.
Ahsoka. Literally just Ahsoka.
Yeah.
That's all he cares about. It's all a ploy to get back to her.
It always is.
Yeah, which kind of made some people kind of confused because it's like, why would you not
announce that?
But if you've been paying attention to the news, you would find his name on literally everything.
Pretty much. I mean, even like our first episode of the show, we like talked about. I was like, I'm kind of concerned for Filoni if he's actually having a big writing role in a lot of these shows.
Look, I'm just saying he hasn't been on Twitter since he literally accepted this role. So.
Yeah. And like he's working on he was doing at one point he was working on season 7 of Clone Wars, working on Bad Batch, working on Mandalorian, Boba Fett, and then Rangers of the New Republic. Yeah, so it was like clearly he had a big role. We just didn't really know what the title was.
I think it's actually very important that you kind of made that point because the Rangers of the New Republic, which was going to be a Mandalorian spin-off show, has allegedly been pulled from production. Now, it has been announced that it's going to be in the background for a little bit. There's some things halting production, but most people are thinking this is probably the end of this show. A lot of people were speculating that this was as a result of Gina Carano's firing. But considering how much is on Filoni's plate, how much Star Wars content we have going on, and just how much the other shows, the other spinoffs, the Ahsoka one, and the Book of Boba, how much weight those carry in the universe, it's likely that they just kind of dropped the show because it didn't really hit with focus groups, the scripts didn't feel right, it just didn't feel right in production, or it just wasn't going to be worth the return on investment. So, to me, although the show hasn't been canceled yet, we're going to just have to see if time's going to say if this truly is a recast or if this is going to be a permanent choice to let it go. But I would not get my hopes up on this show. And to be honest, I don't really know anyone who was excited for this.
I think it was like a lesser of, it was probably like middle of the road when we got that big announcement of all those shows.
Yeah,
I'd say. And like it was above like Visions for some people and above like the Droid Story. And maybe above Lando or a few people here and there, but
yeah, I mean, we got to know more. We would get to know more about this New Republic timeline, which is actually before they struck it from canon was really explored heavily. This era right after the Empire. It was really interesting. So it's cool that we're getting into that now, but man, it's just not that surprising because you think about all the other stuff that's coming out, like Charlie's saying, and it's just not that interesting. If this was the only spinoff, I would be very surprised because it would be cool if we all have that excitement. But there's going to be something for everyone right now, and we all have something to focus on in the near futures.
Yeah,
which hopefully for everyone is the Obi-Wan show, but that's
Yeah, like there's so much content that you can't like even be upset or mad about it. And I wouldn't be surprised if, no matter how big or small of a role if Gina Carano was in it. I mean, more than likely most of the cast wasn't even cast yet. But if you have
Yeah.
like one existing character in canon essentially that you're going to use for a role and you have to get rid of it, then maybe you want to put that story on hold and wait till you get some better inspiration for it or something if you want to change things out.
Yeah.
Because I imagine with that show, with what they were doing, they were probably with where they were going with Cara Dune's character is just like, what is it like to be a person from Alderaan? Like having literally your
Yeah.
planet blown up. And like,
There was a lot of weight to that character. Now, granted, I don't think Cara Dune was the most interesting character. She was fun. She was exciting when she was on the screen, and she moved the plot. It was a well-written character, and it was fine for an
yeah,
episodic show. But for me, I can also just see from any perspective, whether she was here still with Disney or not, it's just not a character that excites me as much. There's not as much complication, and the only thing that you're saying that they really was there is that she was from Alderaan, and that trauma is there, and that she was a veteran.
yeah. And,
These are
but you
all
can
things you
also,
can go off of.
yeah. And like, I think it would be interesting to see how she would handle it versus how they would normally handle it. Like, even when those two Rangers show up and save uh, Din in that cave
Yep.
in the spider episode, I mean, you can tell they operate a bit differently than, what the Republic would have done or even what the Empire would have done, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's
It's
probably
a
what they would have
very
explored. So,
it's a very Western style. I mean, you're dealing with the you're in the outer rim. This is basically, for the most part, the Wild West.
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Inception. But it was very much into that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens from there. But I wouldn't hold our breath. So, but in other news, another allegedly in some ways. Now the recasting thing, that's pretty much what they've announced. It's the only allegedly thing about that announcement is whether it's going to be taken down or not. This announcement, which is a casting thing, is pretty up in the air. Inside the Magic has reported that allegedly the Captain Marvel actress Brie Larson will be moving from the Marvel Cinematic Universe to the Star Wars universe to play as Mara Jade. If you don't know who Mara Jade was struck from canon by Disney previously, and Mara was a member of the Emperor's Hand, a very secretive, powerful assassin who was turned into a Jedi, who then married Luke Skywalker after she was redeemed. Very interesting character in the Star Wars extended universe, which was sadly removed, but apparently they're thinking that's going to be brought back. Now, granted, this is from Inside the Magic, who is not related to Disney. They just cover a lot of the Disney content.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see whether this is been alleged. But actually, fans were pretty excited to see this. So that's kind of the only reason we're covering it, because it got a lot of traction.
Yeah. And I also think, like, it's interesting to talk about, at least from like a storytelling perspective, of actually bringing this character back and how that character can change. And
yeah, and I think Mara is just the one of the perfect characters to introduce into the series. I mean, Mara is so complicated. She's so strong. So you just want her on screen. You want that character
right.
to be in the scene because something's going to happen. And all the books I read with Mara Jade, I mean, dude, when she's there, shit's going down. Granted, the thing people don't realize is Mara Jade has been in Star Wars canon for a very long time. And there was a lot of things established with her. So it'll be interesting to see how they can bring her back, considering there's such an extensive amount of literal literature, the books about her. So we'll just
Yeah.
have to wait and see. I mean,
Yeah.
they're kind of fighting this double-edged sword. I mean, J.J. Abrams, he in an interview talked about this. It's like, oh, when you're recreating content or dealing with an established franchise, it's really hard to do some of this stuff
Yeah.
because
I mean, you have to live
especially
up
with how
to
Disney
people's
has handled
expectations
striking
of a
things from
character.
canon, how do you make something new and fresh to avoid copying your own universe? And
Right.
to just say, oh, well, you're stealing from other writers, which granted, they really are because these writers don't receive as much money as they used to for those book sales because they're not canon. They're just trash. If you want to read them, read them.
Yeah.
Disney will still make money, but they're not being printed. They're worried about other things. I mean, it's
One of
kind of sad.
the old one of the old EU comics was just reprinted. I think it was
Yeah.
like a Mace Windu one. They got like a new cover or something.
Yeah, I
I
heard
think it's
about that.
interesting when some of the things do come back.
Yeah, that's really what has me confused because there's such great Star Wars content out there. I mean, in such a range.
Yeah.
And without getting too much into this rabbit hole, I'm just really interested to see what they're gonna do with Mara because, like I said, Mara's extremely cool, extremely complex. I mean, she is, I would say, Luke's right hand woman for a lot of things, but they are equals.
Yeah.
Maybe not in their force power, but
But
in
in
the
terms of operating as like
amount
a
of
team.
weight and power and yeah, no, and that's what I loved about them is when later in their marriage they operate as like this perfect husband and wife duo, and it's really fun to read because it's one of the healthiest relationships we have in Star Wars. It's very cool, and I would really like to see that more of that in Star Wars. More of connections rather than just, oh, let's make this for story so that when we kill someone it's going to make you feel bad. But
Or groups adopting
I,
Jedi, which someone pointed out.
yeah, groups of yeah, Jesus.
Lots of Star
But
Wars and it boils down to adopting a Jedi.
yeah, it really does.
Rebels, the prequels,
Yeah.
Clone Wars.
My main concern here is I don't know when they would do that. I don't know the time frame, and that's my biggest about this
Yeah.
because Mara Jade is so steeped in the Empire plotline
Right.
that the only ways I can understand them introducing her is after in this new timeline.
Yeah.
But then it's difficult to establish, oh, hey, she was formerly the Emperor's hand. Now, granted, they might just be like, hey, this is a chick who survived Emperor Order 66, and it's going to be Luke's
Yeah,
wife.
like they can totally rewrite the character in some way, shape, or form.
But
And,
that's just going to make Luke seem weirder when it's like, you think, oh, Han and Leia got a divorce. What happens to Luke and Mara if they did they get a divorce?
She has to
Did
die,
she
right? that's what's gonna happen. That's
not
what
fucking
actually
wearing a
makes him
ring.
go in seclusion.
That's
Kylo
what I'm
Ren
saying.
murdered his wife, but we didn't talk about it.
That would have been actually a really fantastic.
No, that would have
plotline.
actually made
And
way
that's
more
the
sense.
problem. Yeah, it would have made more sense. Or if he had a vision of Kylo killing Mara.
Man,
Not just kill.
we should have wrote
I'm just
those
saying.
movies. Should have wrote.
I'm just saying.
No, yeah, like.
But if you're steeped in Star Wars content, these characters kind of come out because you have so many people adding to this, and I'm glad they're bringing it back. But we're just gonna have to see, one, if it's true, and two, how they do it.
Yeah, and I imagine it's like post Mando-ish if they do bring her back, and I think they'll change her backstory. But I think like the character herself, as she like kind of operates, if that makes sense,
Yeah,
will be very similar, like personality wise.
She's the only like good spy character that existed really in that Star Wars timeline. So it's very interesting to see.
Yeah. All right. Is it time to?
Well, I think the last thing we have to announce.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
you can move on to that. I mean, we have a small announcement that Charlie kind of discovered, but so Ubisoft is making a new Star Wars game. We announced that a couple episodes ago. It's been a couple months now. They're making a new Star Wars game, and it's going to be in their Snowdrop engine, which, don't jump out of your seats when I tell you this, folks, was used for the Division 2 and Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. So I don't mean to get your hopes up, but
I mean,
I'm pretty
those are clearly
excited.
some absolute
Wow.
bangers.
Yeah. What the hell? Who approved this? The
Me.
the the range of games that are there's literally only like 6 games that they've made in this engine, and none of them are the same.
Yeah, it's Tom
My
Clancy's The Division 1 and 2, South Park: The Fractured Butthole, Mario Rabbids Kingdom Come, and then Starlink Battle for Atlas.
yeah, I don't care. This game better be good, and there better be no multiplayer. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. We were talking about it, and for the love of God, please stop making Star Wars multiplayer and mobile games. Star Wars is about stories.
For real. I mean, the universe is a backdrop, and
Yeah,
that's kind of been what Filoni has been able to capture so well, and what I think the Clone Wars did better than any other Star Wars story is using the action as a backdrop for characters to develop, and that's really all writing is.
yeah,
I just it is a little bit upsetting. I mean, we talked about this. Like we've had games like Star Wars Battlefront. I grew up on Star Wars Battlefront, and Charlie and I love Star Wars Battlefront. But that was very much like a one-time thing, like a perfect storm. And the new Battlefront, I know lots of people like it, but I couldn't get into it. And Charlie, you played Fallen Order, and I bet you're thinking, I wish they would have put the development time for the Battlefront 2 remake
oh
into
my
another
God,
Star Wars
yes.
RPG.
Yeah, all right.
I
So
mean,
I love Jedi Fallen Order. I think it's the best Star Wars game. But the game kind of looks like
jank.
yeah, it doesn't look bad. It just looks like it was literally made in like I felt like the person who wrote the story spent more time writing the story than the collective time for the developers actually developing the game.
Well, here's the first problem. It's in
As like
the
a full
Unreal
team.
Engine 4.
Also, not to disparage game devs because they actually do work really hard. Want to make that clear.
Yeah, but the problem is they have to deal with the engine that they're given,
Yeah.
and
And they
the
also have to
game's
deal
really
with
good.
investors in EA as a publisher who's like, we want it by, this time. We want it by fall. Give us a Star Wars game in fall. Realistically, that probably
Well, we
should have
want it
came
by
out in
the beginning of quarter 2, kind of
yeah,
quarter 4, like
exactly. It's like we need to hit
so.
this
And
before this time period.
if you look into the developers talking about that game, they literally talk about how they were not giving a choice for what engine they were going to use.
Yeah, literally. And which is crazy because that's a fantastic developer. That's probably EA's best developer.
And that is my biggest concern. Yeah.
I mean, not to get into games things, but with big publishing companies like that, things are terrible. Like Activision will just fire like 50 people in a day. They'll close down entire studios or fire half a studio and make everyone else work on a Call of Duty DLC map. Like
Yeah. I mean,
it's
it is
not great.
concerning.
The more like think of it this way, right? A video game is better when players have more agency. Game development is the same way. If you give the developers more agency and more choices of what they can do, you'll get a better game.
And you know what, Charlie? I think that's actually a perfect segue, because I think that's kind of the same for what we've been seeing with all this new Star Wars content. I mean, especially I would say with Filoni, I think he's just given his writers more space,
Yes.
and there has been more space in the writing room. And I think that's what we've seen as an issue in Star Wars media as a whole: Star Wars books, Star Wars writing, Star Wars books, Star Wars movies, Star Wars games, is if you don't get the space to be able to flesh out your universe, you run into issues. Now, granted, that's exactly why Disney struck so many things into the extended universe.
Yeah.
Is because it's hard to fill that space, to make new content, to make something profitable when it's like that. But you can't put yourself right into the same trap that you just spent so much effort just extinguishing. It's a little bit weird to me when they make choices like that. And granted, I'm going to guarantee what Disney says is, okay, hey, Ubisoft, you guys did really great in the last fiscal year. You guys made great products and all your games are rated above X%. And due to our market research, we think a game made by you would make both of us X amount of money. Do it.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the story about? Let me go ask this guy who's a writer who handles this stuff.
Yeah.
He'll actually work with you on this. Just make sure you get it approved by us, and it needs to be done by Q4 of next year. Okay, see you guys. Like,
Yeah.
that I guarantee that's the conversations. Whereas, when we see the movies, it gets a little bit into that, but the shows and the books, you're dealing with such a free range, and that's why, like,
Yeah.
probably one of the favorite episode we've had so far was Star Wars: The Light of the Jedi.
Yeah, that was the best episode we've had.
It was the most fun to talk about.
Yeah, and I love that era. Like, I really do. I need to read more of the books.
Yeah. The problem is most of it's like it's not even young adult right now. It's all children.
Yeah, a new one just came out.
Fiction, which is great. We talked about this last episode. I actually, so that was their middle grade one. So it's for like middle schoolers, intermediate schools, which is a thing in America. I know if you're listening from somewhere else, that doesn't make.
Well, they're not even a thing everywhere in America. Like kids 10 to 12.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So this is like, 10 to 12, 10 to 13.
Yeah, literally, we'll meet someone that lives 30 minutes from one and has no idea what it is. So.
Yeah, that's fair. Oh man. All right, Charlie. Let's talk about what we're actually here to talk about. I think we did have a good little discussion there. But
into the news we need to know about.
Episode 4, and I actually think this is a pretty good segue because I'm just going to get right into my biggest gripe with this because, as I've said on the last, pretty much everything with Star Wars stuff, I'm going to give you my criticisms, but just know I enjoy all of this. And
it's my favorite thing you do.
It's in my heart of hearts. It's like, I want this to be better. I love it so much that I want it to be perfect. Think of it like that. It is.
That's what good criticism is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the fun in critiquing. The worst thing to do is when you have to review something and say how fantastic it is.
Yeah, that's not interesting. First of all, it's just boring. But let me say this. Charlie and I were just talking about how in Star Wars, one of the best things we've seen is when people give themselves room to write. What?
There you go. You like turn into a robot for just like a second.
Oh, okay.
Then everything caught up.
I'll just repeat myself. One of the best things you can do in writing for Star Wars is just give yourself space. And that was the thing I was the most excited for with Bad Batch, is this could go anywhere. I expected when we first saw the content on this that we were going to have an adventure of all adventures. Now, granted, we're only 4 episodes in. We've had about 2.5 hours of content.
Yeah.
And the plot so far has been, for lack of a better term, one-dimensional. There has been such a focus on Hunter and Omega, which is great. That's your main plot. That is your stakes. You've got these character stakes going on. Hunter is learning to be a normal. He's getting forced in this father role, and actually that's forcing him to learn what it's like to be a normal person, not just a clone.
Exactly.
And, Omega, she's lived this life where she's never lived anywhere but Camino. She's a kid who's never experienced the life. She's been sheltered from everything. So they're all learning at the same time. And actually, I'll retract that statement because to me, on the screen, it's only felt like 2 of them are learning anything but just, this is the plot. This is what's going on. I think the show has been a little too focused so far on Omega and Hunter. And I love Omega and Hunter, so don't get me wrong. But I want more development. I want more development in characters. I want Wrecker, Tech, Crosshair, and most importantly to me, Echo, to have more screen time and more development. And that's
by the way, I kind of want to talk about the lack of Crosshair later.
Yeah, that's actually a thing I want to get into. One of the things that made me think about this is the Echo's role in the last few episodes has just been to kind of be there and show up and interact with technology in many of the same ways Tech has. And Echo is such an interesting character that I feel like they're wasting it just focusing on these things. Now, the plot is great so far, but we're 4 episodes in and we really haven't got any B plots that focus on the characters. And this might seem nitpicky, but remember the title of the show is The Bad Batch.
Yeah.
And what we're
It's
getting
not
is
Hunter and Omega.
it's not 100 Mega, it's not, some really cool marketing name title they came up with. But
After 66. Yeah.
yeah, it's not about the Bad Batch so far. The first episode, it really was. And the second episode, a little less, but it was getting into the plot. And the third episode, it was just about the crew trying to get off it. But this episode really cemented, yeah, this is the Hunter and Omega show so far. And it just makes me sad because Tech has literally only been used, and same with Echo, but Tech the worst, has only been used as a plot device.
Yeah, he's like, I'm here to solve problems. And he's like,
he's a MacGuffin in human form. And if you don't know what that is, that's a writing term. It literally means just a thing that's used to perfect the plot. Comes out of nowhere. It's just like, oh yeah, we have this thing that will fix everything. Let's do it. It's your Bob the Builder moment from when you're a kid. He finds the perfect tool.
by the way,
it's just kind of sad.
best description of that.
I mean, that's exactly what it is. It just feels too much like The Mandalorian, and I love The Mandalorian. But if I wanted to watch The Mandalorian, I watch The Mandalorian again. And I think what Hunter and Omega have, that chemistry is really great. But I just want to see characters that not only have flaws, but get to grow. Tech, for example, he is the archetypical Spock character. He is cold. He is logical. If something in his brain says, okay, this is the way we need to do things, he literally cannot understand why anyone else would think differently.
Exactly.
But here's the thing about Spock. Spock, in every episode where that's a point that's made, he gets called out on that. There's growth. There's chance for development.
Yeah.
And I just would like to see that because Disney, you have made some characters that I mean, we've got less than 10 hours of content with these characters, and I'm attached. Oh, I love them.
Yeah.
They are exciting. They are cool. They are unlike anything else we have in Star Wars. And oh, baby, I want seasons of this. But man, I just need you to show me in the next few episodes that this show is the Bad Batch.
Yeah. I think that makes perfect sense. I think that was a pretty well prepared rant there, my friend.
Yeah, this is the discussion my girlfriend and I had when we were cooking dinner. So
that's wonderful.
We were talking and she said something. I was like, wow, you're right. And I went over, I was writing on my legal pad. So, this is what we do.
That's wonderful.
Do you have anything to add to that? Any criticism?
Yeah. I mean, I think
I don't want to take up.
Yeah. I mean, I think like Omega's growth is obvious in developing
absolutely
sort of thing. And I still like that they're kind of establishing that she's vulnerable and she's not really aware of like deception because of like Finnick. I mean, there was no real reason for her to not trust Finnick. But at the same time, I mean, she just doesn't know better to not trust a stranger.
All right, I have to tell my joke now. This is one of the things I wrote while watching it. I said that the title of this show should have been Stranger Danger. The title
it should have been.
I mean, that's literally what happens. She's this naive little girl, and Finnick comes up and was like, "Oh, are you lost? I'll help you find your friends. Do you want some food?" She earns her trust. And that's actually the thing I appreciated the most about Finnick, and I'll get into it in a second. But
yeah, well, not only was it smart, but it like reflects better. And they do that again at the end of the episode, where the guy is like thinks that she's like gonna beat the shit out of him, and she just like tosses him a credit. Was like, "Thanks for the tip. Let me know if they come back."
Yep. Yeah, we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, you can keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted my Stranger Danger joke.
Oh, no, to your Stranger Danger. Do the Stranger Danger.
Yeah, I'll just say I was really happy with how they introduced Finnick and extremely happy with how they handled her because you got to remember this is a while before we get Mando Finnick.
True.
So she's younger, she's less experienced, but yet they were able to make her still the same cold, calculating, precise, just fucking force of nature style character that you're scared of when she's on screen, but yet she's still compassionate, not cruel. She's
Yeah.
not a she doesn't feel like a true villain. And that
No,
was so
yeah.
interesting. I just man, it was such good writing. I mean, they ramped the tension without ever really feeling like, oh, she's going to try to kill Omega.
Yeah.
I never felt like the one point that I was like, okay, this is total fake out. Like, you're not going to convince me of this was, oh, they've got Omega on a ledge. Because not even the villain would want that. The
Yeah.
villain's trying to take her alive very clearly, which we'll get into the speculation here in a second. But I just, man, I'm also going to give credit to Finnick Shan's voice actress and actress, Ming-Na Wen.
Yeah.
She is phenomenal at everything she does in the Star Wars universe and her other projects. Man, the voice acting was so phenomenal as well.
Yeah.
I was just really impressed with everything that they were able to pull off with Finnick Shan in this episode. I mean, the fight scenes were quick but crisp and believable. I mean, how'd she fight Wrecker? The same way she fought everyone else. She
Used
waited
his
for
own
you to
force
rush
against
in
him.
and use your own force against you, which is very, very true to real life. That's how a lot of
Yeah.
martial arts are actually used. So it was really cool. I really appreciate this episode. I mean, it was believable to be able to convince her with stranger danger. Like, come on, I'll help you.
Yeah.
And I found it interesting that they used that moment where Finnick stole food to kind of set Omega off a little bit. Like, so okay,
Yeah,
things
she's
aren't
like, isn't
completely right.
stealing bad?
But it also kind of opened her eyes up to like, hey, the world's a little bit bigger of a place than you think it is. Like, it's a bad world out there.
Yeah.
And I think, and I would love to rewatch it and look again, but I think Hunter said something very similar at the beginning of the episode.
Well, yeah, he
Uh,
was like, sightseeing, yay. And he's like, no, we need to be quick in and out. Like,
right. There was already this feeling of tension. So it's like, of course, Omega's going to believe her there because that's all she's felt. That's all everyone's told her. Especially Kim and Owens. It's like, you have to stay here. This is what will keep you protected. It's like helicopter shelter parents.
yeah,
It makes perfect
literally.
sense.
She literally didn't even know how to have fun 2 episodes ago. Like,
So,
and then,
props on the character writing there. I think they did a great job.
Also, I love Wrecker and Tech just not understanding the concept of bribery and just being really bad at it.
Which made perfect sense, right?
No, yeah, it did. But it was so funny and I loved it.
Are the people person. It's like it reminded me of like a Dungeons and Dragons party. It's like, okay, you guys are so specialized that if the scripts get flipped here, you're screwed. And so
yeah, if you literally have to talk to normal people, like Wrecker would be like, he shouldn't have paid him because he was like, yeah, I'm not gonna pay you. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you.
I know. I was like, he can't even intimidate him properly. He didn't know it was an option.
Yeah, it was like, it's like you rolled the intimidation check, but the guy was like, but money, and he was like, ah, shit.
You're right. Yeah, I found that very interesting, and I did like the I don't know what his name was because he said it, but I forgot. The dock handler who sold them out. I thought it was very interesting, especially with Finnick Shan coming back and being like, "Tell me if you had them," and it kind of reminded me a lot of you catch more flies with honey than you do a fly swatter kind of thing, and that makes Finnick Shan infinitely different than every other bounty hunter we've been presented to. So, I mean, that in itself is just very interesting, and I hope we get more Finnick Shan in this. Like, I would love for Finnick Shan to pop up to at least 3 more episodes this season, or at least 2 or 3.
Yeah,
because she's such an interesting character.
Yeah. sorry. I just thought this was funny. I was gonna look up the character on IMDb,
Mhm.
but of course, when you look up cast, but normally it shows like 3 actors. For
Oh
this
my
show, it
gosh.
just shows D. Bradley Baker. It's like everyone.
D. Bradley Baker. D. Bradley Baker. D. Bradley
It
Baker.
literally just says clone troopers, and that's all of them.
Yeah, it was always funny in certain episodes of the Clone Wars because there'd be like a bunch of clones,
Yeah.
and it's just literally him. Oh man, gotta love D. Bradley Baker. The dude
I'm sorry,
is funny.
Bobby Moynihan was in an episode. He was just a random citizen in an
Yeah, I
episode.
mean, we need to go back and look at the cameos. We should have been doing that because Disney has been really cheeky with that stuff lately. Pretty much
Yeah,
just anyone who's anyone calls up and says, "Hey, can I be an extra?" You're like, "Sure,
yeah.
sure, Tom Cruise." Like, I don't think Tom Cruise has been in Star. Actually, now I have to know.
Oh, the I think the droid that was in today's episode, it was played by Griffin, who is Azula, and so many other characters, like a long list of characters. She's
Very
Daphne
cool.
in Scooby Doo.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, so let me get to my last few points. I really have been enjoying the writing of the show so far. The line that hit me the hardest, or not the hardest, like it hit my emotions, but I thought was a really just interesting line was um, when they were all watching the war parade on this
Oh yeah,
planet, and Omega says, "The war is over, isn't it? That's good, right?" And then Hunter says, "Depends on what side you're on."
yep,
And I just found that very telling, and I think they've used a lot of lines about sides and like taking sides and choosing sides. So they're just seeding more and more of that conflict we're gonna get
yeah.
with Crosshair and about choosing and all this stuff. So I'm very interested to see where that will go. Um, Otherwise, I just it was a good episode. The show seems to get more and more beautiful in its animation
Yeah.
every single episode. I mean, I have been
Especially with
really
this one, they had a lot of
impressed.
chance to use color, like a
Yeah,
lot
and
more in like the city color palette.
that was one of my biggest gripes with the Clone Wars cartoon was it was a lot of red and black. A lot of red
Yeah,
and
or you go
black.
to one planet and it's 2 colors for the day.
It's literally orange or just green and pink. And there was so much going on in this, and it wasn't just like, oh, Coruscant where everything's black and there's flashing lights. It was, hey, this is a city with people, there's diverse kinds of people and diverse problems, and it was just very colorful and very fun, and it made the chase scenes enjoyable because it was more than just, hey, there's a moving black background.
Yeah,
It was actually cars moving the background and different alien creatures.
yeah,
So
like
I just want to give them props for that.
yeah, various colored cars, headlights, taillights, neon signs everywhere. Like it, the animation stuck out really well this episode. I felt like the art
Yeah,
style was
and it
really
feels
good.
like a little weird to say like, oh, the headlights, but that was one of the weaknesses of the Star Wars cartoons. They've always lagged behind in their animation.
Yeah,
They
and
always
now
have.
it's like now this is the best animated show you can watch, and not just
It's
like
one
out
of
of content, but literally just visually. Like there's not a lot of shows that compete on
yeah,
this level,
this is
especially
the
3D
direction.
animated.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is with 3D animation. This is the way Disney is going. Now, I will say I'm very still big into 2D hand drawn animation,
Yeah,
but this style that they're going for, I very much enjoy.
yeah, and like even this year, there's not. I wouldn't say there's a lot of shows that even really compete with that. Like, first of all, not in 3D, but even in 2D, it's on the upper echelon if you can combine it, like the categories.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah,
when you brought up the parade, I'm really glad that you brought that up because I think it really mirrors the Empire Day episode in Rebels, which I loved. Like that these will like just knowing that these will eventually become pretty routine and overly authoritarian patriotic
yeah. The thing I actually enjoyed the most about this, and this was a small thing,
propaganda.
if you
Yeah.
look it's propaganda, but if you look at the shots, there's a lot of alien creatures pumping and cheering and all this stuff. These are the people who are going to be just outright oppressed.
Yeah, literally.
If you're not human, you're screwed.
Yeah, almost always, unless you're Thrawn. And even
that's
then, like, he has to deal with racist people all the time.
and the exception doesn't make the rule. He climbed against in spite of those things, not because of it. So I just
Exactly.
found that very interesting, and they've been really intentional with all that. I will say though, I do have one gripe about their choice of alien species. What the fuck was with the goat dude? Why was that a joke? Like,
The goat dudes keep popping up
I know, and they have to do the meh, like
every
bleeding
time.
like a goat shit. I'm like, "Ugh, stop.
I mean, I get it,
Stop.
they're there, but is this the second episode this season with the goat guys?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
It's like the recurring drunk people in animes. Like it's like if you watch Cowboy Bebop, there's like three old dudes who are probably drunk that show up constantly on different planets. Like every episode. It's like, why?
Yeah, I don't get it, but man, it took me out of it a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, and not in a like, oh, that was a good laugh kind of thing. I was just like, eh.
I was
But
like,
it might be good with kids. I mean, this show is, as my girlfriend would put it, really cute. It is one of the more kiddie cartoons, and that's why like I don't think there is as many adults watching it.
yeah, there
as,
was a
like,
distinct lack of
Mando.
war crimes this week. I was very disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry, Crosshair will kill more people next week. Which, speaking of, we'll get into the speculations now about what we think the next episode is going to be about or where we're heading. I mean, obviously they've done the very clear episodic path of at the beginning of the episode we're going to remind you what our problem was last time. We're
Yeah.
going to solve our problem this episode, and there's a new problem this time, which was, this time they solved their ration problems, and their fuel and the tracking, which are pretty big things, literally survival. They've met their base needs, but now they're being hunted like prey. So
Yeah.
they have
And now
to,
they are aware of it too.
they're aware of it. So now instead of that, they are tracking down. Allegedly, they're going to look at what's happening with Finnick's boss, which I'm very interested to see who that'll be. But
Yeah.
to be honest, just based off of the,
But we also need to find
Excuse
out the whole chip thing still.
yeah,
Which, I mean, we kind of had that last week and we kind of didn't talk about it.
yeah. I mean, that was
In the
literally when I
episode.
was getting the Spock thing. That was Tech going, I'm literally more interested in the chip than I am fixing the ship, and that's what I care about is what matters. So it'll
Yeah.
be fine until I fix this. We have to see that because you're going to lose momentum in a show. So the next episode is definitely going to be more about the chip and
If only we could hear
Crosshair.
Omega say it. The chip. The inhibited chip.
inhibited chip.
Inhibited chip.
Tick.
Tick. Echo.
I don't mean to make fun of accents or anything.
No,
but,
it's just adorable.
The voice actress, I literally was convinced that Omega was a child. So great job. So she did a wonderful job.
I think
yeah,
the whole internet's convinced as well. So
I literally was just like, oh yeah.
there's a person who
there's
blew up on TikTok, on like Star Wars TikTok this week because they could do that impersonation really well, and they're like, "Hey, say this line, do this."
Yeah, they.
What if they're like, "What if Omega meets Ahsoka?" And then they're like, "Say hi, Ahsoka." It's like funny.
Yeah, this person needs to be streaming on Twitch and take donations where they read the donations, or they need to do Cameo. I'm just saying.
Yo, do you think I could get an Omega text to speech? That's what I need.
That's great.
Every donation.
We'll call this person and be like, we'll give you $100 to say all these vowels and sounds.
God.
Just kidding. That's really scummy, actually, to use their voice for that, but it's just funny. Charlie, do you have any guesses as to what we're going to see next in the near future? I mean, we've finally seen the Finnick Shan thing. We only have Rex left in our trailer bingo card to get out of the way.
Yeah, and I think the chip thing is going to be pressing. I'm just kind of curious what planet we're going to next, really.
Me too.
Because, I mean, yeah, I mean, they don't really have any leads on Finnick, realistically, do they?
None.
Like,
None.
not that we know of.
No clue.
I think we'll see Crosshair next episode again, hopefully.
We have to. There's no way we don't. I mean, it would be strange.
Yeah, and I think we might develop those characters again. I could see it. I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually more Crosshair focused. Again,
I would love for an episode that's mostly Crosshair.
Yeah,
because
I think that they did it. They could have it be like next week's episode's concurrent with what we just watched. Like, because I think we're gonna get more development out of those people in his squad. You know.
Yeah. I would like to see more of that. I mean, they've got the blessing and the curse of the Bad Batch right now is they have so much to work with. They have so many stakes, so much content, and they've really almost dug themselves into a hole with this because there's so many strings to connect now.
Yeah.
And you're bound to disappoint someone if they don't get all of it, but you can't.
Yeah. Also, they've been working on the show for like 3 or 4 years or something crazy.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, people forget
like the animation assets were that old, which is like nutty.
Yeah, people forget that the Bad Batch is an idea from George Lucas that was adapted. Like, all this concept, this whole arc has been planned for a while. So it'll be interesting to see how this develops. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I definitely feel like I have to say we're going to see Rex next episode. The chips seem to be a pressing matter. I feel like they hinted at it with Wrecker last week.
Yeah, I mean, he had the headache. And I think just seeing Cut again was a good way to say, hey, have you seen Rex? And that's what they did. And
they're like, Rex survives? And then we talked about last week how I think Echo and Rex need to have that conversation.
Yeah, that's my biggest gripe. And I actually thank you for bringing that up because I think they need to get to Rex soon because this show is falling a little bit flat without development, and I think Echo is the character to bring that back for me.
Yeah.
So I would love to see him interact with Rex because Echo is the most normal out of the group, but he can't fit in normal society because of
they literally thought he was a droid.
The scars of war that he's developed, and I don't think it's wasted on pretty much anyone that he is this allegory essentially for like PTSD and just what happens to veterans. Like,
agreed.
He's literally turned into a new person where he can't fit in, he can barely fit into some groups and he can't fit into normal society.
Yeah, he can't fit with even the soldiers that he was with, right?
Yeah.
So
not at all.
Seeing that, I wouldn't be surprised if when they meet Rex, it's multiple episodes.
I would hope so. I mean, that's a pretty
also like I feel like there's just a lot there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I also like having Rex allows more. First of all, not only does it feel somewhat like fan service just because he's very well loved, but also like I think that he can help Echo grow. I think he can help Omega grow. And I think he also works as just like he is a badass, as are most of the characters in the show.
Yeah. So I think it'll be a moment where we're switching to more character focus rather than plot, just because you can think of all the things Rex would say to these characters. You know, Rex is gonna tell Echo, help him connect and kind of get past his past, and he'll be really sweet with Omega, and he'll probably impart some lessons. But with Hunter, he's gonna have to tell him, like, look, you're in command of your own life now. Like, this is how you acted before, and now that the Republic's gone, like, well, why are you acting like you need to run from point A to point Z, carve your own path? So, I think it'll be interesting. I hope we get there soon. I don't know what we'll see next episode. I think you're right with the chip stuff, but I would love to see it sooner rather than later for sure. Yeah,
and what's good is that Rex goes with all the chip stuff. So goes hand in hand.
Sense, so.
Yeah. And then Poop. There was someone else to talk about that I'm blanking on. But do you have anything else? Any other predictions?
No, that's
it's gonna kill me because I'm gonna remember in like literally 30 seconds what I was thinking about. It's one of those.
Yeah. Well, I don't have too much to talk about, so if you're ready to cut it, I am. I think we talked about a good bit today, so.
Yeah, we did. I was really pleased with that.
Yeah.
I need to think of it. Oh yeah, that's what it was. We haven't seen Omega's bow yet, so I'm very interested.
Shoot,
yeah,
we haven't.
Yeah, and that's a very odd weapon, so I'm very interested to see where she gets that.
Yeah, because it looks like the Night Sisters bow.
Yeah, although most of them are dead.
Yeah, I know. Good call out, Charlie. I didn't even think about that one.
Yeah,
man, that is actually also on the bingo card.
Yeah, actually, I think we might actually see a character from Jedi Fallen Order. Since almost all the other ones are dead, all the other Night Sisters, because of the basically genocide that Grievous did on Dathomir.
Gotta love Grievous.
Yeah, Night Sister Marin's the last living one.
Man.
Well,
Maul's still alive, so there's a Night Brother alive. But
although that's kind of a stretch. I feel like that's a bit of a stretch, but gosh, that'd be cool.
It would be cool.
I don't know. Filoni's insane. He'll do anything.
Real. Filoni's weird. I love him.
Hey, he brought back Cut from season 2. Like, I'm not rolling anything out. I see an energy bow. It's true. I see an energy bow. I say, where do they come from? I look at the last surviving person of a group that uses it. Am I crazy?
Makes sense.
Alternatively,
but unrelated.
Yeah. Also, Maul lives on Dathomir. So there's a thing. It'd be interesting if those two characters ever actually canonically meet and have an interaction. Anyways,
it's kind of against their culture, but without getting into that, I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Yeah. Well, there's more stuff in Jedi Fallen Order. So
play the Jedi Fallen Order. That's what Charlie's trying to tell you.
I think you should play it soon.
On that note, go purchase and play Jedi Fallen Order, because this is going to be the end of our episode for today. Thank you all for tuning in from all across the galaxy. If you liked the episode, please consider subscribing to our podcast wherever you get your podcast, and share it with someone, whether it's a friend or a family member, who might enjoy it. If you want to interact with us and help us grow, you can make the show even better by following us on our Twitter, which is, Charlie?
At ORR Show, which is Outer Rim Radio Show on Twitter.
Or you can find our Discord, which is on our Twitter, or you can find it in the show notes. But yeah, so thank you all for tuning in. Goodbye, and may the Force be with you all.